A video game doesn't even progress without input. It can't even be played to an empty theater. It just sits there. It won't even go through its sort of full linear pattern. I mean, you can imagine, some robotic arm turning the pages of a book, or a movie playing to an empty theater, or a painting just sitting there. It's still a kind of complete work. It's just there's no one looking at it at the moment. With a video game, it's like it's not even really functioning as a work at all until somebody sits down and manipulates it. So it's that makes it a very delicate kind of thing to create and design, because it's so dependent on what the person who's coming up to manipulate it is going to do. And of course, you can't predict exactly what they're going to do. I mean, yes, with a novel, you can't really predict whether someone's going to skip chapters or not, but that's about as much, or stop reading halfway through, or read the book backwards, but that's just about as much freedom as they have, right? Within an interactive experience, depending on how you design it, somebody could take that experience and run with it in a direction that you weren't expecting at all, to the point where they have subverted the sort of intended experience completely, and they're focusing for several hours on one little corner of this interactive experience that you didn't even intend to be a focus at all, and they find that to be really interesting, and they're for example, trying to break the world, or they found a little break in the world, or something unusual, some little unusual behavior in the world, and then they spend a good deal of time sitting there fiddling with that and not going through the rest of the experience that you've sort of laid out for them. There's some people in our industry call that process the abdication of authorship, where we're essentially saying, yes, we're authors of these systems, but we have no idea how players are going to interact with our systems. Not really. I mean, we sort of like to pretend that we do, but in reality we don't. And if you sit down and watch people actually playing our games, look over their shoulders, oftentimes as designers, we're slapping our foreheads saying, wait, no, that's not how you play. You're supposed to do that instead. Or I intended you to do this at that point. So I think that is where the sort of indescribable properties or the magic of the medium happens, is at that membrane between the system that the designer has created and their sort of intentions and thoughts that went into the process of creating that system. And then on the other hand, what the player brings to that experience and how they try to manipulate that. And then when the designer has done a really good job in designing the system and is coupled with the right player, then something really cool can happen at that interface between the two, which I think really sets our medium apart from other mediums.